Good morning. As we continue to journey through the book of Jeremiah, a complementary passage to our sermon today comes from the book of John, chapter 12, verses 24 to 25. This reading is from a paraphrase of the Bible, the Message. These are the words of Jesus. Listen carefully. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces itself many times over. In the same way, anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever, real and eternal.
It has been good to be with you these 4 weeks. Thank you for entrusting me with the sermons. First time I've ever preached in one church 4 Sundays in a row, so a new experience. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to work with John Williams and other worship leaders. As a guest preacher, often churches just kind of do whatever they do, but it has been really special to feel like I'm part of something each time, where the songs and prayers and readings kind of go together on the theme. And so that's just been really special for me to work with you. Thanks. I have, last time I didn't mention it, but I have some of my watercolors at the back to kind of enhance the theme. I don't know if there's any visual artists out there, but spoken artists tend to get paid by the church, whereas visual artists don't. But I like to compliment them sometimes if possible. Hope is our theme, and so the pictures will hopefully get you to think about hope for the church. I also have some of my books for sale there that I could call hope for us as individuals. Jeremiah is not my hobby horse topic. If you want my hobby horse, read my book. But in conversations with Winston and just time in thought and prayer, it seemed that Jeremiah might be a good place to go, even if it's a difficult and dangerous book. Plus, when was the last time you heard a sermon on Jeremiah? The only one, perhaps, is that famous memory verse, but you know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, and so on. That's about all we usually hear. Jeremiah has graphic violence, and it's dangerous because the biblical prophets, like Jeremiah, can be read to back up all sorts of atrocities fueled by readers' fear or even hate. So it's important that it is read in the context, in its tribal context. That includes really the rest of the Old Testament as well. So today we come to the climax, which is another rather violent incident. But it is also a word of hope in the middle of all that. This is going to be a different kind of sermon. It'll be a spoken word poem based on the entire book of Jeremiah, but focusing particularly on chapter 39 and chapter 31. I'll also be paraphrasing Lamentations 1:1-5. It also borrows lines from the lyrics of Bruce Cockburn. If you haven't figured out, he's one of my favorite artists, as well as the late Mark Hurd. And one line from a speech by Tony Campolo, who quotes another preacher. Where is the hope? See what's going on in the world. Russia's been invading Ukraine for over a year. Wagner attacks Putin in the back, but he'll just try a new tack. War is a long and bloody affair, I fear. And we lament for the people of Sudan. More civil unrest and another famine in the land. And just a few days ago, 500 people drowned fleeing Syria and Pakistan. The largest wildfire ever in our province is burning north of Fort St. John. How long can all this go on? What can we do? COVID started in 19 and now it's 23. From this pandemic, will we ever be free? All it has done is reveal all our sins. Racism, sexism, ageism, all the isms. Nobody wins. Churches have emptied out. What is that all about? Where is the hope? What's going on in the world? What is going on in Jeremiah's world? Well, in chapters 1-30, there's poetry galore. Jeremiah weeps and wails, as I said 2 weeks before. Last week, he warned the people of dark days ahead, but they kept on doing what they always did. No justice, no responsibility. I'll just look after I, myself, and me. Then in chapters 34-44, the story is told how the Babylonian bombers busted in bold. They took away all the people except the poorest of the poor. And the poor had no idea what to do. With nothing, they were left for dead. And their beautiful Zion, city on a hill, fortress on a rock, hope of their nation, castle and temple in all their glorious array, lay in ruins, and they did not know what to do. And it just gets worse in the final chapters of the book. Look at the doom and destruction. God lets no one off the hook. Egypt, Assyria, the Philistines and Moab, Ammon, Edom, even Kedar and Hazor, and the worst was reserved for Babylon. Boom! Everyone meets their destruction and doom, and not a single soul has the remotest idea what to do. What's going on in our world? What's going on in Jeremiah's world? We're looking for some hope. We don't want to mope. Struggle for a dollar, scuffle for a dime, step out from the past and try to hold the line. So how come history takes such a long time when you're waiting for a miracle? What's going on in the world? What's going on in Jeremiah's world? The city of Jerusalem was not all that big. In a world of empires made of cedar and gold, it was merely a twig. This puny little nation was simply in the way on the trade route between the superpowers of the day. Whoever controlled it controlled the world. Thus, the superpowers knew exactly what to do. They blazed and they raised and they phased out poor little Jerusalem. For them, it was no big thing. But to God's people and to Jeremiah, it meant everything. It was a very big thing. It meant everything. What's going on in Jeremiah's world? The royal line of David is no longer on the throne. Everyone knew that God had promised David he would always be on. Now all the kings are either dead or gone. And the last one is humiliated and chased down, down, down. Zedekiah is no longer on the throne. He is made to watch as they murder his men. He is made to watch as they murder his friends. He is made to watch as they murder his sons. He is made to watch, and then they gouge out his eyes so that it is the last thing he ever saw. What's going on in Jeremiah's world? It only gets worse. It's the end of a nation. A nation is people. The people are gone, except the poorest of the poor. A nation is land, and the land lies desolate. A nation is culture, and the culture is confiscated. The people of God are no more. There is nothing left. They are completely bereft. What's going on in Jeremiah's world? It gets even worse. The temple is destroyed. The temple? The temple is the place where God saves. The temple is the place where God speaks. The temple is the place where God works. The temple is the place where God lives, exists. With the temple destroyed, there's no place for salvation. With the temple destroyed, there's no place to hear God's voice. With the temple destroyed, God is no longer at work. God has left the building. God has abandoned them with nothing left to do. God is as good as dead. What's going on in Jeremiah's world? What is going on? The people have failed. God has failed. Where is the promised salvation? The promise had been made to Abraham many years before. Through him all peoples of the earth were to be blessed galore. All nations of the world would stream to this temple door. A righteous ruler was to bring justice and safety forevermore. And now what? What's going on in the world? Where is the hope? The people and the kings are dead or gone. The temple and the castle lie in ruins. This is the end of salvation history. It is a failure of epic proportions. Nothing left to do but sing the blues. Let us now lament. How deserted lies the city, once so full of people, how deserted is she? Once so great among the nations, how can this be? Bitterly she weeps at night, tears are on her cheeks, no lover turns out delights. There's none to comfort her, even friends run in fright. Hard labor, grimace on the face, Judah lives in exile, she finds no resting place. Her pursuers have overtaken her, there is no grace. Even the roads to Zion mourn, her gateways are empty, and the priests they groan. The young women grieve and the young men moan. Look at us, working in the hot sun, the pilloried saints and the fallen ones, working and waiting for the night to come. And we're waiting for a miracle. And the miracle came. In the midst of all this ruin, there is a promise. Look at the promise stuck in the middle of this book. The days are coming. The days are coming when I will make a new covenant with my people, declares the Lord. It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of slavery. They broke that covenant even though I was a faithful lover to them, declares the Lord. The days are coming. The days are coming when I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God and they will be my people, declares the Lord. The days are coming. The days are coming when they will no longer have to teach all their neighbors or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least to the greatest, declares the Lord. The days are coming. The days are coming when I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. The days are coming. The salvation story takes some surprising turns. In the end is a beginning. In the midst of winter, it's hard to imagine new life bursting from a brown bulb buried in the frozen ground. A seed has to die in the depths of the soil, kicking at the darkness, pushing upward till it bleeds daylight. In Jeremiah's world, there was some good news. The exiles did return. The temple and the city were rebuilt. The hills bore grapes and olive trees once more. But 500 years later, the land of the covenant was once again occupied by Rome, the new Babylon, the beast. But in the midst of Roman occupation on a much smaller side scale, in a small town among the poorest of the poor, the salvation story took another surprising turn. It began the era of a new Davidic dynasty, a new temple, and a new nation that transcended royal bloodlines, that transcended political boundaries, that transcended racial differences and temple walls. It is the glorious and everlasting commonwealth of Jesus Christ, risen from the ashes of a burnt-out city and a rock-hewn tomb. It is June. We are living in a time of gloom. Things look grim. We are loving in a dangerous time. We may not know what to do, but we do know the rest of the story. Destruction and death do not have the last word. And yet, what about us? What's going on in our world? The country's on fire. There's political quagmire. The price of living is through the roof. The economy could go poof. Our healthcare system is going broke. Maybe even you and me. Well, at least they legalized my toque. Who's wearing the dagger and cloak? I don't know, and I'm afraid. Maybe I shouldn't have spoke. Oh, it feels heavy, this yoke. I think I'm cracking. Who says it's forever long? All other empires in history have come and gone. Why should North America be spared? What if all of our cherished institutions went the way of ancient Jerusalem? What kind of legacy are we leaving for our children and grandchildren? What should we do? What's going on in our little worlds? The hours get shorter as the days go by. We don't want to stop and open our eyes for fear of what we might see. Jobs jolted with insecurity, incomes clinging tenuously, houses mortgaged for eternity, small businesses taking all the knocks, mental illness maroons us on the rocks, cancer speeds up the clocks. Are you lonely, anxious, and depressed? There's no pill for this mess. What of your dreams? Where is the hope? Our institutions may be in trouble. Our future plans may be a bursting bubble. Our economies go from boom to bust. Our bodies go from dirt to dust. We may not have a clue what to do. But in the end, our hope is not in buildings, governments, institutions, economies, good health, churches, jobs, marriages, mortgages, markets, or dreams. But our hope is in a living God who comes to us. In the manger, Jesus became like us. In the dusty streets, Jesus walks with us. In the cross, Jesus joins himself to our failures. In the resurrection, Jesus announces healing for our brokenness. Out of these ashes, a phoenix will rise. Darkness gives way to light. From a small seed, hope takes flight. Out of these ruins comes restoration. Death is defeated by resurrection. In the midst of our ruins, we shall rise. We are an Easter people. As the preacher once said, it's a long Friday, but Sunday's a coming. It's a long Friday, but Sunday's a coming. It's Friday, but Sunday's a coming. Go and tell your friends and relations. Go and say what ain't easy to say. Go and give them some hope that we might rock this boat and we'll rise from the ruins.